musataki wamupa mambo mutoweka mbali mwaeyu musashanisa hali zangu mutoweka mbali mwaeyu musashanisa hali zangu Ushaliona simbalera simbalera 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 ushaliona simbalera ushaliona simbalera simbalera ushaliona simbalera simbalera ushaliona simbalera simbalera ushaliona
Magali Muria Zimbabwe, San Bonani. Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe I should say good afternoon to our viewers and listeners here in the United States of America and Canada, because I know it's a good afternoon here. But I also know that it's a good evening to our viewers and listeners in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mozambique, Botswana, the rest of Africa. And of course, it's a good morning in Australia. Thank you so much. Those who are just joining us, you are tuned in to your favorite program, Padare na Mambo Svosve. And today, Padare, the doctor himself, Dr. Nkululeko. Thank you so much, Doka, for joining us. We'll get right straight into it. We don't want to waste time because Zimbabwe kunonzi garawaka waita live yako magetsa anoenda. Dog, Sangana in Muria, Zimbabwe. Just take a few minutes to greet our viewers and listeners.
Thanks, Chief Svosve. It's great to talk with you and to engage with your listeners on this, what I think is becoming one of the best shows for our political and social community. So it's nice to be here.
Yes, and we are honored to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to share with us, because today we are going to pick on your brains. I don't know what you'll be left with. We want to take everything that you have.
Listen, you're not going to find anything there, but look, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and I think I know people know that there's Dr. Nkululeko, but maybe we just want to, hear from you. Who is Dr. Nkululeko? That's an awkward question, I know, but I'm sure you can deal with it.
Look, I'm a philosopher, so that question doesn't get too awkward. Look, I'm just an ordinary person who happens to think that they are a member of a community of people that call themselves Zimbabweans. I have worked with one of the greatest leaders on earth, President Nelson Chamisa, and with people like yourself. And I think that that has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. I also think that there's a great deal of work that needs to be done to serve Zimbabwe from the current situation it is in. Where if you talk in terms of science itself, we're certainly threatened with extinction, because unless we do some great things, unless we make sure that the current regime is out of there, and that you have a new government led by President Chamisa, for example, somebody who understands the plight of our country, somebody who's in touch with technology, with our times, somebody who's actually in the 21st century, somebody who's actually in 2021 and not in 1904. Then I think that we will not be able to save our genes from extinction, say, in the next 300,000 years.
Powerful. And Doko, you are a man of many hats. You are a strategist. You are an advisor to one of the most powerful men in the world, President Chamisa. You are a fundi. You are a professor. You are a political analyst. You are a freedom fighter. And I know you used to be a professional stone thrower as well, because you came through student activism. So I think we are talking to the right person here. 2023, what should the country do? We are going to give you all the time so that you just walk us through and advise us as a country. We also want to be advised by you. Why should President Chamisa monopolize you? Can you give us your insights into 2023, what we need to do?
Chief Justice President Chamisa must, because look, everything is going to happen through him, but and he needs the best advice he can get.
Right.
But let me say, Chief, there isn't a better question that can be asked by our generation in our time other than the question you've just asked. There is 2023. There is a Zimbabwe after 2023. I know that people have said, have listened to people like Mnangagwa tell us that 2030 ndi chipo museum kana yako man. And that's where we need you if we have any interest in our country and its future. But why would I say 2023 is probably the most important question? Chief Svosve, Zimbabwe is at its greatest malaise at the moment. Zimbabwe is suffering a lot economically because we're hemorrhaging. We are living on what the earth can produce. The bare scraps of gold that is spanned by individuals is what we're living on. The good fortune of good rain is what we're living on. The misfortune of the Japanese deciding that they no longer want their Honda Fits is why we still have cars on the road. And you know, when you look at that strategically, which is what we do, you realize that there isn't an automotive company, a big company in the world that is still designing a piston engine. That is to say, an engine that's going to be driven by a fossil fuel. Everybody is designing an electric engine into the future. What that means for a place, and this is just one great example of why Mnangagwa and his cabal are an existential and eternal threat to our existence and to our genotype being found on Earth a few hundred years from today. Now, so if you use the best estimates that we have, by 2030, by 2035, 2040, you will not have a single car manufacturing factory that reputable or big enough that will be producing a piston engine. Zimbabwe doesn't have electricity in order to run itself based on an electric engine. Zimbabwe doesn't have an electric network and doesn't have roads where you have electric lines following it so that you can actually stop and charge your car. We don't have electricity at home. So when you bring your car home, guess what? You can't charge it for tomorrow morning. So even if we were to be able to buy those cars, we will not have the infrastructure to sustain them. What you have right now are Zimbabweans struggling between themselves because they only think about 5 years from today. To dig tanks into the ground and put more oil into the ground, there is no piston engine in 20-30 years, right? And Vanam Mnangagwa will not be able to help us get out of that real crisis. Can you imagine a country from today onwards? Can you imagine us without a car? You can't imagine us without a car. We're going to be dead.
No, yes.
Simple example. And this is where President Chamisa comes in. And if you've listened to him since 2018, very consistent about why you need to focus almost entirely and with a lot of zeal on infrastructural development, because that is where we are going to survive. So 2023 is about that. It's about whether or not Zimbabwe will have a car on the road in 2040, in 2050. It's about whether Zimbabweans will be back to riding donkeys and doing Fumvudza throughout in 2050, right? It's about that. So bare bones, basics. It is important. 2023, for the most part, must also be about whether or not Mnangagwa is in a museum in 2030, right? Like, really, his ideas don't belong to a government office or to a cabinet meeting. His ideas belong to a museum. We should be seeing them in a natural history museum, of, what do you call it? Maybe horror museum, right? Because it's horrific to have people are thinking about Fumbudza in 2021. But Chief, the question that many people are asking, which is an important question, is there a potential? Is there a capability? Is there a willingness? Do we have the strength to remove, through elections, a dictatorship anytime soon in this country? That is what I hear from people. Yes, we hear you, Dr. Sibanda. A lot of my learned friends say, we hear you. We hear what you're talking about. It's scientifically true. We know that we're fast moving into an AI world. We're fast moving into a world of technology. We're fast moving out of the piston engine car. But yeah, and you guys, perhaps President Chamisa has great ideas. But is there anything you can do? Can the dictatorship be removed anytime soon? That is the big question, Chief Svosve. And I can tell you that after having sat in a few meetings of some of the most important people in the struggle for our freedom, now more than ever, I am convinced that these people have got the ideas and they know where to go. Only if we can work with them. If every one of us can work with them. One of the ideas, which is the Triple C Community Convergence program, that is the beginning of great things for this country. And if we all kind of try to find out where our communities are converging, what it is that they're talking about, and we begin to engage, I think that we have some of the greatest opportunities starting from there.
But Doc, as you said, the people are asking questions about 2023. What should we really do as Zimbabweans to prepare for 2023? What needs to be done to ensure that we don't end up riding horses and we don't end up surviving on Pumbudza every time? I mean, if there's anyone who can survive on Pumbudza, what can we do as Zimbabweans to ensure that things change in 2023?
Chief, I smile because you're asking a great question, not because it's funny. Chief, that is for me the core of our society. One of the things that I ought to say, and sometimes people come back to me and say, "But why do you seem not to see what we all see? Why do you think that there's an opportunity here? Can you be real?" And I'll be real with you today, Chief, and mostly because it's you, Chief. So you are a chief. I have to respect you. And you know, I have to be. When I speak with you, I have to be on the level. I must mean what I say. I always do, but I mean it more today than at any other point. Chief Panachini, there is one important thing that we can't run away from. There is one most important weapon that we have as a country, most important program that we can have as a country to deal a serious blow to the dictatorship and bring to our community a sense of change and a beginning anew and change that you can believe in. There is no other way other than to realize that in this time of our lives, in this century, in this moment, the greatest and the best ideas, the greatest and the best opportunities are led by President Chamisa. So what that means is that we must all do like what all the other societies that have dealt with the dictatorship have had to do.
Right.
They've had to create reasonable coalitions around a credible leadership. They've had to bring themselves together around a leadership that can take them across the finish line. In this country, and it is not boastful because I am not President Chamisa.
Right.
With And I say this as a sign on the basis of science. Let me drill it down to some of those that may still doubt. Something that we call political space, and it's one of the greatest lessons that you can have in political science. Sometimes they couch it as politics is the art of the possible. Never mind what they mean by that. We can explain that later. But what they really mean is that political space, which is the space within which you've got to operate in order to get yourself into a position where you are able to make policy and to govern or to assure change. You need space within which you can do those things. Now, the most important thing that people forget, that must always remember, and it's true anywhere on earth, will probably be true if you emigrated to Mars. Political space is finite. It is definite. You can get to a point where you say Zimbabwe's political space is 100% occupied. Chief, if you get into a house,
yes,
and there's someone in there, you're going to have to try to find a way to kick them out before you can become the new occupant.
Yes.
Right? That's the same as political space. If your cup is full and you keep trying to pour water into it, you're not pouring water into the cup, you're pouring water onto the floor, pouring water onto the floor. So in Zimbabwe, our political space is currently dominated by the industrial military complex in the first instance, because it uses the power of coercion. And it coerces state institutions, it coerces some political parties such as ZANU-PF, former political parties, it coerces some individuals such as Monzora, etc. And they run with it because they think the industrial complex owns the state. And then there's a true and real political actor. And that real political actor is the MDC alliance, as led by President Nelson Chamisa. And if there's anyone who wants to act genuinely in this country, at the moment, they have three options. Either to expand our political space in the first instance, or secondly, to join with the military industrial complex, which is what Monzora does. Monzora has given up on fighting democratically. Many others, the Coopers and so forth, they've given up on that. They've thought that co-optation by the industrial complex is probably what they need. Now, the other option, independent from the state, is the one where you're really dealing with the MDC alliance. And when you're doing that, you have to realize that probably President Chamisa is the one that occupies much of the operative political space. ZANU-PF's political space is non-operative. It's unoccupiable. It's non-expandable. That is why they'll always get 30%, 33% at best in elections, and then rig for the rest of the game. So I am encouraging Zimbabweans of all hue, all colors, all formations, all political beliefs, all kind of are saying that all Zimbabweans, all persuasions, are you there, Chief? Guys, if you're there, I'm just gonna hold the line here and hope that Chief is here and we can continue with the conversation.
Yes, Chief seems to have dropped. And now he's back in.
Oh, it seems to be back.
Now,
Yeah.
now,
Oh,
did I tell you man?
Coach, chief.
Ah, I mean, maybe it's Zanu PF sabotage. Now, I just got kicked out.
Chief, zonetsa kuno iso hatigone kutoita mafone calls tikaita mafone calls akati koshei inobva yangokatwa tongoziva kuti no, we have no permission to communicate.
But anyway, yeah, we move on, Doc. Thank you so much.
Yes, Chief.
Right.
While you're away, the point I was making, Chief, is that
yes,
for all Zimbabweans who have the love for their country and can see this country beyond the current malaise we're in, we have got to begin to pick sides here. We've got to begin to, I think, at the first instance, think about joining hands with other Zimbabweans in the community cohesion, convergence for change that the president has called for, and that President Chamisa currently leads. Within whose, he doesn't lead that, it's the community coming together, but the president supports this initiative. The president works with this initiative because it is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I must say, Doc, the Citizens Converging for Change is one of the best policies and ideas that the MDC has come up with. Whether it was part of your ideas, because you are an advisor, it's really something that was long overdue. We want to work as Zimbabweans. We want to call upon all Zimbabweans to come together so that we can converge and take power. It cannot be an issue for President Chamisa. It transcends the MDC alliance as a party. It should be an issue for Zimbabweans. So congratulations to that, Citizens Converging for Change. But are we going to converge to get electoral reforms?
Yeah, the Chief, thank you very much. I think that it is one of the greatest ideas and programs to ever be developed and to grow out of the political base in Zimbabwe. I must say, though, beforehand that I'm not that intelligent, Chief. So it certainly is too good to be my idea, right? But I certainly agree that it is an idea that will enlighten our society. It's probably an idea right from the top, because the top has worked very hard in this country and understands where we need to go. But this country is not going to be freed by individuals. This country is going to be free because Zimbabweans demand it to be free. Zimbabweans want it to be free. So I think that I am certainly in agreement with you. That's an idea that we must respect and try to implement to the best of our ability in working to achieve Zimbabweans. Yes, it relates very well with the concept of making sure that our electoral environment is even by the time we have an election in this country. And at the launch of Prize, the president said that
Doc has frozen, Chief.
Doc is frozen. That's the network.
You know what time we have an election in this country, it's gonna go like that. I probably was saying something important there. They didn't like it.
Yeah, Doc, I think you might have to go out of the broadcast and come back again because you are freezing, and then there's also some noise that is coming through. But if you can just go out and then come back again, we should be able to continue without any technical hitches.
Sounds good.
Okay. So to those who are just joining us, this is we have Dr. Nkululeko Sibanda here, the spokesperson to President Chamisa, and he's just sharing some insights into what we should do as a nation, as Zimbabweans, going towards 2023. Of course, you're seeing that he's very caged with ideas. He's a strategist. He can't be letting everything out of the bag, but we'll try to squeeze him so that he can give us some ideas some way forward, so that as citizens, as Zimbabweans, we know what we need to do. There are a lot of questions that we are going to ask him, so that we glean some information out of him. So do not go away. Just sit back and relax. You'll be getting back soon. But moving on, I think there are some questions here that have been asked by people. I saw a question that was coming through from Ruben. We're going to ask Dr. Nkululeko to attend to that question. And those who want to join the program or who want to ask questions to the good doctor, please feel free to text me or call on my number 850-559-6287. Number the chief from North Zero. Or you can just write on the comment section any questions that you want addressed. And I know Doctor will address those questions. Welcome back, Dr. Nkululeko.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I hope you appreciate the difficulties we have with a stable network here in this country, especially if you don't work for the regime.
Yes, and we have a question here from one of our listeners, Ruben. Ruben just wrote and said, change party name, please. Electoral reforms needed ASAP. That's Ruben. I don't know how you can address his question.
Look, the party itself, not necessarily the president, has dealt with that question on several occasions as far back as September 2020. You see, one of the things that you have got to appreciate is that the leadership, your leadership, understands the realities associated with working with ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is an unlawful organization to a large extent. And the current regime, the current dictatorship is consolidating to the extent that we know that whatever you do, you have to stop being proactive. As you were saying, if you were to change your name today, comrades and friends, and this is an example, I'm not saying that this is what the party is saying. The party has said that, and the president has said that. He will advise, the party will advise.
Yeah, looks like Dr. Nkululeko is having network challenges there. Tampozitaura tichitanga program tikati garekaita malive edu nekuti magetsi anoenda kana magetsi anokanganiswa neregime. Yeah, I think we are back now, though. You can go ahead. Yes, we are having connection problems.
Thank you. So I'll say, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're breaking out. I think your network is just getting bad every time. It looks like someone is listening. You're talking too much about Mnangagwa, and they're listening and they don't want what you're saying. So they're making sure that the world doesn't hear what you're saying. Yeah, I can confirm my apologies to our viewers and listeners here. We are having connection problems with Dr. Nkululeko. I might have to call him here on another line and bring him back on audio. Says Amunozi atipererwe Padare pana atipererwe, who always find another way of going around this. Rita Stella, you can play a song while we try to.
Okay, Chief.
Yeah, so. Viewers and listeners, our sincere apologies. We will get it sorted out on audio so that we can finish this interview. We have very important questions that we want him to address. So I'm going to call him directly on the phone. Meanwhile, we'll just take a short break.
Better
Thank you for that. I'm just about to get Dr. Nkululeko to come on audio here, and then we can round up this program. But we
He's
have
in the stream, Chief.
Oh, he's back?
Yes, he's back. You don't see him.
Yes, Doc, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
And you are also now very clear. Yeah, Marwapindira. Because leader Stella, don't think she's just operating machines and making sure we are broadcasting.
God is in it.
Remember what President Chamisa said about going Pamavi?
Yes. God is in it.
Thank you, Leader Estella, for those prayers.
Most welcome.
Yes, Doc, now we can hear you, loud and clear. So if you can address Ruben's question, and then I have two other questions before we round up. You're talking about the change of name, and then you also asked about electoral reforms. And let me also add another question that has just come through my phone. Someone is saying, Chief, is there any reason why we should continue voting ZANU-PF always rigged? And we don't seem to have an answer to that. Someone from Finland has just sent that question.
Great questions. I was still, engaging the gentleman or the lady on the question around the name, and I'm saying we know for a fact that ZANU-PF operates in very nefarious ways, and that it uses institutions of the law, institutions of the state. And that if you changed your name now, it is very likely that there are possibilities that you'll have. And this is an example. I'm not saying this is the position. The position of the party and of the president, as far as I know it, is that when the party has determined that it is necessary to do so, the party will come back to the public and inform them. But as of the last meeting that and the last statement by the party on the question, it was very clear that the party had decided to stick with its name, and that if any changes were to occur, the public would be made aware. Now, Chief, and I was giving a teaser here. If for any reason you changed your name today, and the person you are changing your name against is the same person who gives birth certificates anywhere, right? And then before you start grade 1, or before you go to write your Form 4 examinations, they go and say, actually, your birth certificate, that name on your birth certificate is on another person's name, and you can't have it, right? What it means is that you will have been reactive to quickly run with changing your name, giving the person on the other side more opportunity, more time to play around with that new name. So I think that the leadership is on the money on this one. Strategically, the leadership is doing the right thing. The leadership is taking its time. The leadership is not being reactive. And people say, the MDC alliance is reactive. This is one instance where the MDC alliance is not reacting. The leadership is being proactive. The leadership is saying, we will do what we want to do. We will do what we have to do when we have to do it. We will not let anybody tell us what to do and when to do it. We will do it in our time and in our moment. So I think that that puts, for me at the very least, it puts the question to rest. There is no need for us to continue asking that question unless we're really pushing ourselves into a cul-de-sac. And I would wonder why we would want to pull ourselves into a cul-de-sac. Now, on the question of electoral reforms, I think that there's a lot of considered effort being done, both in national politics, in different spheres of our political activity, to try to make sure that there is change. But here is what the president said when he was launching Prize in 2020. He said that the next election in this country is going to be conducted on the basis of an even playing ground and a reformed electoral environment. If it is going to be a good election, if it is going to be an election you can believe in. So Zimbabweans have a stark choice. This is your convergence, Zimbabweans. This is the call that the president has made. And we should be watching our space. What country we end up with, Chief?
Yes.
Depends on who, depends on us, all of us. Depends on our leadership, the president. He said, you can't have you can't have an election that is without reforms. He has said that. Now, I'm saying that because he said that he's provided the leadership and the guidance, we now have got the responsibility to follow up with the leadership and find out what it is that we can do together. It was Thomas Jefferson, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
And I regard him as one of the greatest minds.
The great Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about him in a moment because tomorrow is July 4th. Tomorrow is July 4th. Yeah.
Oh, great. Am I jumping the gun here?
No, you're fine. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
All right. So it was after he'd written his own articles for the Constitution of the United States of America, one of the greatest constitutions on earth in terms of democracy and affording the citizens the rights that they need in order to prosper and live happily. A journalist asked him, Thomas, Mr. Jefferson, what do you think about the Constitution you've written, the Constitution you've contributed to? And the gentleman rather nicely and steadily stands up, and then he says, "Oh, you know what? We have done a very good document, and I think that people are going to be happy. But it is only as good as the Americans can keep it. We can only get a country we create ourselves. We will not get a country that Thomas Jefferson creates. We'll get a country that we create when we converge together and protect that which is important for us and for future generations and for our own survival into the future." The danger with ZANU-PF is that it doesn't threaten just your future. It threatens your current life. Just your existence, your survival is threatened. So we've got a much more serious situation here than Thomas Jefferson imagined in that great answer to the journalist.
Yeah, I think you have addressed those questions, and I want you to continue on your trajectory of Thomas Jefferson, one of the greatest leaders that we have here in the United States of America. Tomorrow we are celebrating the 4th of July, and I know as a student of history and politics, you know that in 1776, the Americans said, "We are done, we are tired, we do not want to be a colony of the British anymore," and they declared their independence, which serves to what we always talk about, what great people always talk about, revolutionists always talk about, that freedom is not given, freedom is demanded, freedom is taken. The Americans demanded and took their freedom on July 4th, which we are celebrating tomorrow. Can you draw parallels here to the Zimbabwean situation? Do you think Mnangagwa is going to give us independence? He's going to give us the Zimbabwe that you were talking about, the Zimbabwe that we want?
Chief, great question again, and only takes legends to ask that question. I'll tell you that why it is great. It's great because there's something there that people have never really asked or ever really imagined. Yes, there are a lot of parallels, lines running in the same direction between the American unilateral Declaration of Independence and the history of this country. Remember, we're only but the second country in the world to have ever declared unilaterally its independence from its colonizer. Okay, and also very historical. We declared independence on Armistice Day, on the Day of Peace. In terms of the First World War and the Second World War. So we've come through this history that's pregnant with global politics, pregnant with some of the greatest ideas on earth. But there are disparities, Chief Svosve. The people that fought for America's independence and the people that led that struggle for America's independence were not so self-obsessed. Those people wanted a prosperous nation. Those people wanted to create a new generation. Those people wanted to create a new nation, a nation that was truly prosperous, that was truly independent. And there are two very important ingredients to independence, Chief Svosve. And those are very interlinked and can't be separated. Those are prosperity and happiness. You see, the Americans were pursuing an idea of individual happiness and individual prosperity, and they recognized that their success as a nation, their success as a country, was inherently married to the success of the individuals, the ingenuity of every person, the ability of every person to contribute to their country was in fact the weapon they needed to have or to become the greatest country in the world, coming out of being a colony. So you're talking about the 18th century when the Americans become independent from being a colony. And then you transport yourself, get into a wormhole and get into 2021 or get into the 21st century. And the Americans have gone out of being a colony of Great Britain into becoming the most dominant force in the world. And how was that done, Chief? Yes. That was done because the Americans allowed every individual to be free to pursue happiness without the state over interfering. And without individuals being the law unto themselves. So Thomas Jefferson didn't seek to be the law unto himself. Even Abraham Lincoln didn't do that. He could have if he wanted, but didn't choose to do that. In fact, what he said is that, look, what they said is that we're still going to be run by institutions and law. That's where you have the difference. So every human being seeks independence. And we sought independence as Africans and as Zimbabweans. But what we forgot to do is that independence is only guaranteed by individual freedoms, by my ability to lead a happy life if I'm willing to work for it, if I'm willing to put the pound, to put the hours into it, then I'll get happy and I'll get prosperous if I did that. Now, in this our country, you have individuals that think that they're now entitled to the wealth of our country simply because they can make the claim that they provided us or gave us independence, which is a lie. In fact, every Zimbabwean I know, every Zimbabwean you think of, and when you read history completely, you realize that nobody fought for our independence but every one of us. Every one of us who was alive was actively at war, including the white people. We're actively at war on the side of independence or on the same side as the minority regime, just as were some black people who were fighting against the independence of black people. So this is where I think President Chamisa comes in. President Chamisa says, look, I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I don't want to tell you where happiness comes from. And in fact, I will be your worker. I will be your president. I will lead with you. I will lead based on your ideas. And then President Chamisa walks into a meeting, my brother, and I'll tell you a secret.
Yes.
And history books will be written, Chief Svosve. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen, you can see leadership at work. He walks into a meeting and people are debating ideas. And at some point, the president realizes that actually people debate these things and then they think that the president already has made up his mind on this matter. So what does he do? He removes himself from a pole position and participates in one of the plenary groups, right? And it's a true story, Chief Svosve.
Right.
And then he also then makes sure that all the other plenary groups are not dominated by people who are in top leadership. He gives instruction that let everyone who is in this meeting have an opinion. And those that we've not heard from the most are the ones I want to hear from. That is what Barack Obama did. Barack Obama spoke last. He allowed Biden to close the room before he would walk out and go and make a decision. But he allowed everybody to be heard. And you'd come back and bring in another group of individuals if he thought that his ideas had not been fully formed and had excluded some other opinions from us or some other groups. And that is what your president, Chamisa, does. He actively seeks opinion from everybody. And he's a talking president. He has an open door policy. He speaks to everybody and everybody listens to everybody and makes sure that you feel important when you talk to him. And make sure to record your views. And you come back to him a year from now with your ideas. He will tell you, I remember you told me that. And this is what I did about it. If he doesn't take all your ideas, he will take some of them and he will tell you why he didn't take all of them. And he's going to consider all those things. And that is the kind of leadership that saw America grow out of being a colony of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland into becoming the foremost, most powerful country in the world in our century and in our times.
Thank you very much, Doc. And I think there are a lot of people who agree with you. I'm going to digress a little bit here and talk about the Ugandan election because I know you were involved in that. You are a student of international relations, so obviously you relate, you interact with other political parties, political dispensations outside Zimbabwe. We want you to tell us what parities, what lessons we learned from what Bob Wine did, his strategies and everything. But before we give you a chance to do that, let me just go through a few comments here from our viewers across the world. Tabo, Gezela, and some corner, Darwin. Yeah, I'm Darwin.
You got it.
That's a Ben Tabo. I think you know him. Yeah, he's saying I'm Darwin to you. So yeah, you know each other. And then Stuart Posada is saying Triple C, citizens converging for change. That's an acronym that is, you know, going around the streets and everyone is talking about that. Abel Mashiri is saying many words, nothing new. Eloquence of non-effects. We read all the comments here. We don't, so that you know exactly what the people are saying. And then Abel Mashiri again is saying, if only we can be given the chance to grill this guy. You have the chance, you have the opportunity, Abel Mashiri. Instead of writing what you're writing, you should have been writing a question to grill him so that you could respond to that. That's an opportunity that you are being given. And I told you, you can also call me and then ask a question to Dr. Nkululeko directly. And then Desmond, Sharukai leader, Desmond, and these are important conversations. Thank you, Chief Konimpala, watching. James Sponono, watching. I like Dr. Sibanda's analysis, well researched. Yes, that's what people are saying. Please keep the comments coming. Doc, over to you. Your Ugandan experience, parities to what is going on in Zimbabwe, lessons learned from the Ugandan elections. Are we not going to fall in the same trap?
You're on fire, Chief. You understand the world in its completeness. You're on fire, I can tell you that. Yeah, you seem fired up. You've been attending a lot of Democratic Party rallies in the last decade. But
I can do with those praises, Dog. I can do with that. Even if it is flattering, I like it. You know, I don't get that too a lot. So that's okay.
Right. Doc, like you, look, I'm not a guy, you know, I'm a technocrat. I'm a professional, and that's what I live on. I don't want to be popular at all. And the Ugandan experience is one of those areas where I am painfully aware that I am in the minority. I am not very popular because for me, I talk to you. It doesn't matter. That I'll be frank with you, and then I'll be on the level.
Yes.
I say to the Ugandan progressive leadership in I think November, December last year, when my views were sought. I say to them, look, you are dealing with a dictatorship. Stop behaving as if you're contesting in an election in Botswana or in South Africa,
yes,
or in England or in Britain. We're exposing the irregularities. We're exposing the heavy-handedness. We're saying things that are embarrassing, would matter to the other politicians, or would tip the scales in terms of the legitimacy of the election, where the individuals would be worried, can be embarrassable, if you can use that phrase in the English language. But let's abuse the language for now. Dictatorships, by their nature, cannot be embarrassed. They don't care. Okay? Dictatorships, by their nature, will break the law day in, day out, because what matters to them is the end. The end justifies the means. So I say to the leadership, stop doing this thing of concentrating on eloquently reciting every human rights abuse that happens during the election, because you will get those. It's not enough to do that. You've got to get to a stage where there must be a price. There must be a cost to the regime for abusing human rights, right? And that is about the whole strategy of running an election. It must not be about embarrassing the regime. It must be about getting the people of Uganda free once and for all. So instead of using the election to try and embarrass the regime, you must use the election to prepare your people for the struggle for freedom. They must know that if an election is not free and fair, if the election is not free and fair, there will be a price to pay. Or if they don't know, there must be a price to pay. The Ugandan election was flawed in every way. We knew it was coming. We saw it from a mile away, and we let it happen. And I am saying, Chief, and that is what I say to them, instead of crying, we should have prepared our swords, political swords, and went into the right battle. I said to the leadership of the progressive forces, you are taking a knob carry to a gun battle. It doesn't work. You will be shot from a distance. And as if I was a prophet, yeah. By the day they were announcing the elections, you know what they did? They simply surrounded Bobby Wine's house and made sure he can't go out and can't talk to anyone for a couple of weeks. And then they announced the election, and then they went on with the game. But the fact that they surrounded his house tells you that the regime knew what I was talking about. The regime knew that this guy could potentially have been working on a freedom or a citizens' convergence type of program during the campaign. So in order to stop him from implementing it, let's close him in while we announce our results. Bobby Wine came out crying, oh no, they've closed me in with a 5-year-old baby. They don't have conscience. And do you think dictatorships have conscience? They kill for a living. So it is that kind of scenario. And that is what I am saying, that we in 2018, unfortunately, didn't have the chance to do or to be strategic about, because the Mnangagwa government, for most people, even the international community, was seen as something new. So we could not have overexposed Mnangagwa for the criminal activities that he would then engage in, because then we were accused of being presumptuous and of not wanting to engage in good faith. But the Ugandans had a better situation than we did. And I think that in their circumstances, they ran a lot alongside the populist narratives without necessarily being effectively strategic and without being able to see beyond the exciting activities of an election campaign.
Powerful. And I guess the analysis you have given about Uganda, as you rightly said, also applies to Zimbabwe, and hopefully will not be caught in the same net as Bob Wine. And as you have said, we are prepared for that, and we should be prepared for something like that. We are left with 5 minutes here, Doc, to round up. But before I ask you, I squeeze the last 2 questions. Let me read a very powerful statement here from Vuga. You're a young man, I know you know Vuga. My strong suggestion is we need to attract the youth to these programs. My suggestion is we need to package these programs in a manner that our unfocused youth can admire and get pulled. Instagram needs to be invaded in a very strategic manner. I think you like that statement. I'm seeing your reaction.
Yeah, look, I know Vuga, and I think that he would be is making an important observation there, and I think that his skill and his commitment needs to be channeled as already is appropriately to help the movement grow stronger and necessarily to attract some of these young Zimbabweans to whom the future belongs more than it does to the ailing ruling elite whose ideas belong nowhere more than a museum. And if they get into a museum, they'll be very lucky. I mean, none of them has sterling ideas or ideas that need to be remembered at all. We will only remember them as perhaps some of the people with the worst ideas ever experienced by any national leadership of any country in the history of the recorded world. So yeah, I agree with Vuga, and thanks Vuga for that intervention there. And I think that we should begin if we're not already to work together to strengthen our ability to get young people into work. But let me also say to any young person who's listening, since Vuga has brought this up, look, the future of this country is not about what I will do. The history of this country is not about what President Chamisa will do. The future of this country is not about whether I get it right or get it wrong, whether I'm intelligent or not. It is not about whether I'm charismatic or not. It is not about President Chamisa. He is just but the leader that God has given us for now. And he acknowledges that. And he also says the future of our country is almost entirely, just as Joshua Nkomo said, it's almost entirely but what you young people, the owners of this country, will do in order to free your country from its current malaise. If you need ideas, come together, join the convergence, share ideas, and let's sharpen each other. There's nothing, I will tell you, you don't need to take up arms against this regime. You only need to think. And all dictatorships are afraid of thought. They will not be able to sustain a thinking society, a thinking people. That's what we got to do. And when we think, we simply need to avoid thinking in habits, thinking the way we've always thought, doing things the way we've always done. The regime already knows that. We must think anew, think fresh, and the regime will be running and scowling for the mountaintop. Thank you.
Powerful, Doc. As we round up here, guidance, Chikons. Sorry if I mispronounce your name, but you wrote a very good statement here. Let us always do these programs and motivate each other, especially us youth, to register and vote. You are on point there. And I must say, Doc, I've never seen the MDC Alliance and Zimbabweans, getting a head start on elections as I have seen this time around. People are already talking about elections. I mean, 2.5 years away from election day. This is powerful. We sometimes we used to wait until 6 months before the elections, and we start talking about registering to vote. And then there will be a scramble of people trying to go and register to vote before the cutoff date. I'm seeing our youth at the MDC Alliance youth. They've been doing good things in Bulawayo, in Harare, and we are seeing Honorable Hepmo Chidziva with his rural program. We have seen the Women Assembly. They have this exciting program called Koki or Gogo Goyamai, where they are going into rural areas, knocking at each and every door, which is essentially door-to-door campaign that I've always said we should do as the MDC Alliance. Against rallies, door-to-door works wonders. We can gather people, we can have thousands of people, multitudes of people, but I can tell you here, when we help the Democrats, we do door-to-door, and we bombard people with emails, with messages. It's individual. We are addressing individuals as opposed to coming with 60,000 people in Rufaro Stadium, our own people. But if you are doing door-to-door like the Women Assembly are doing, the Youth Assembly are doing, and Vachibaya with the main wing, they're doing things that we really need to be doing ahead of these elections. So please tell them that Chief Svosve and the people in the diaspora appreciate what they're doing. But of course, you can quickly comment on that. And then please, as we round up, your last question, just address the people in the diaspora, because we know you were a diasporan at one time. You lived in the United Kingdom. You understand who we are. You understand our cries and our wishes, the things that we want are done on the ground. You were there at one time. And, just tell us, what do you think the diasporans can do to contribute to 2023?
Chief, you're on the money there, especially when you talk about the fact that it looks like if you're talking Obama speak, we are fired up. People of Zimbabwe are fired up and ready to go. It's 3 years. It's nearly 3 years out, and Zimbabweans of all hue, color, persuasion, profession, whatever.
Civic society, independence, citizens, they're just in there. Maybe they're responding to the Triple C.
Yes, you can see that there's an impact there. These people are already talking about 2023. If we don't nail it, we'll have missed the opportunity, because the people are saying that they are ready, and we've got to, they're willing, they're ready to go, and we've got to go with them. And that is the silver lining here. In spite of all the challenges that we have politically, in terms of our political environment, and in terms of the dictatorship and how it is operating, and the consolidation of authoritarianism, I think that gives me the zeal and the power to carry on, to see so many people, multitudes, different communities everywhere in this country, outside this country,
Just when we're about to get to the end of the program, it starts freezing again. I think is the network stupid? I think
the moment he says Zimbabwean,
please go ahead.
Days, anything they will talk.
Looks like we have lost Dr. Nkululeko there, as he was giving his closing remarks to those that are just joining us now. I'm sure you can always go back to this video and watch what Dr. Nkululeko was saying. Dr. Nkululeko, by the way, is the spokesperson to President Chamisa, and he was giving us insights into 2023, also giving references to the American independence and also to the Ugandan scenario in which he was fully involved in. So if you have missed, please just go to zimi.com and also to Change Radio and listen to this program. Very, very productive discussion that we had with Dr. Nkululeko. And I think he was just about done. So we are just going to take this time to thank you, me and the background staff and everyone who helped to this program and the success of this program. And of course, to you, our valued viewers and listeners, both on Change Radio and on ZimEye. We want to thank you for being here. We want to thank you for the support. We appreciate you. Let's keep fighting. Let's do this together. Citizens are converging for change. We are the citizens. Let's do our part as Zimbabweans in the diaspora, and of course, as Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe. Let's come together, like what Dr. Nkululeko was saying, that we have a role to play, each and every one of us. It cannot be up to President Chamisa. It cannot be left to the MDC alliance only. This is our struggle. And itunga munu. Sakatese, we must do something before you ask, what is President Chamisa doing? Why is President Chamisa quiet? Why is the MDC alliance quiet? You should also be able to ask yourself, what are you doing in this struggle? What have you done? Have you responded to what Hope Ochimono said or is proposing about Zimbabweans supporting the election monitors and all those people that are involved with elections? Have you responded to that call of duty? Because those are individual decisions, individual things that we can do as persons, as Zimbabweans who are interested in seeing change. And I have always said that you can make a difference on your own, in your own community, in your own village. Nehama dzako dzekumusha ikoko vaudze kuti mwedzi uno kana musina kuenda kunoregister kuvhota handisi kutumirai mari yechikafu mwedzi uno. I've done it with my family and it works. You give them $100, you can take the whole village to go and register to vote. And we can do that. You can do that even though you can't go to Zimbabwe to vote, but of course, as Zimbabweans, we are still fighting for the diaspora vote. But while we are fighting for it, try to do something as a person and make sure that the people that have gone to register to vote. Once again, thank you, Zimbabweans. Until we meet again and next time, please take care and take care of your loved ones. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Simba